and I'd like to welcome you all to this Mobility Monday. It's This is an important presentation. I think we have all been. Oh, and here comes Beezy. Now you're on your P's and Q's. Jen, be careful now. So, uh, we've all been concerned, I think, about the advent of roundabouts and how we're going to cope with that, and what tools do we have to deal with that. And I'm really proud to introduce Jen Graham, who many of you will likely know. We're such a small community. And Jen is a mobility instructor and also works with accessible design for the blind, and has been doing a lot of research work on uh, roundabout access and also tactile walking surface indicators. And there's a lot to cover here, and we're not going to cover all of it. We're going to keep this pretty narrowly focused in this presentation. And if there's more to get into, we can get into that uh, at towards the end of the presentation. But I'm really looking forward to this. Jen, are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right. I'm sharing.
Yep, I just need to make sure I hit the right one.
Best of luck.
All right, can you see the PowerPoint?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, perfect. Thank you. Well, thanks, Lucas, for that introduction. Like he said, there is a lot of material that we're going to try to get in a short amount of time because we also want to try to leave some time to have some discussion. So the main thing is that there's a video that I'll be showing, and I'll try to remind you again as I hit the video. When the student of mine is actually traveling, the sound might be fairly loud. So you might want to turn your volume down, and then I will try to remember to pause it before it's the interview portion of the video, because it's hard to hear her. Even though we're inside, the microphone is just not the greatest. So you might want to then, turn your volume up when she's speaking. So again, I'll try to remind you of that. And if not, feel free someone to do that for me. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. There we go. So real quick, what we're doing is we're going to talk real briefly about the tactile walking surface indicators, the different surfaces that we did some research on. But this focus is just going to be on the roundabout issues and how we were able to install a couple of the different applications with one of my students. And then after the video, hopefully we'll have some time to do some discussion. This is the link that I put in the chat. So this basically is the research that we did to determine the ability to detect and discriminate between the different surfaces, and then use the tactile walking surface indicators in various settings. This publication has two parts. So the first part being volume 1, which is all of the research parameters and everything we did during the research. And then volume 2 is going to be the guide portion, which is for the installation use of the TWSIs. And it also goes into how we would encourage you to, teach them and learn and help your students better understand and identify them. So I highly, highly recommend that you download this free copy. Okay, so like I said, we're going to jump right in. The three surfaces that we're talking about, at least here, most of you know, and in the top right-hand corner, there is a image of a crosswalk that has detectable warning surfaces. Those are what we usually call the domes, the truncated domes. Some people call them bumps, but we're all pretty familiar with what the detectable warning surface, or DWS, is. The middle picture is an image of it looks like 4 lines, but they are actually raised bars. And these are what we call tactile direction indicators. So they could be called raised bars, they could be called guiding bars or directional bars. Again, these are a different type of installation and surface. and I will go into it in a little bit more in the next slide. And then the third one is what we call the tactile warning delineator, or the TWD. And that is what we would typically say would be like the trapezoidal delineator, or a trapezoid. So again, we're not going to spend time talking about the trapezoid because I did not use that in our video. However, Lucas and I were talking today, and we are considering doing a TWSI Mobility Monday just to talk about the surfaces and how we use them and how we could possibly. So that would be a future thing, I guess. Mention in the chat if you feel like that would be a good idea or not. But anyway, the big thing is that there's distinguishing between the different surfaces, and there's a lot more to that, but I just won't have the time to do that today. Lucas, did you want them to put questions in the chat while and then we'll just address them? How do you want to do that?
That'd be fine. Also, just to let you know that people who arrived after you posted the link at the beginning can't get to that part of the chat. So sometime down towards the end, you might want to repost that link.
Okay, I will try.
Okay.
I am not the most tech savvy, but I will try. Help remind me if I forget.
Will do.
Okay, we're going to keep going then. So first, we're going to talk about the detectable warning surface. Like I said, many of us are already aware of them. Obviously, what should a pedestrian who's vision disabled do when they encounter the truncated domes or the DWS? They should stop and figure out whether they're at a street or at a transit platform, and they should prepare to either cross that street or whether they should board the vehicle, whether it be a rail car, a bus, a trolley. If they're at a street, they should explore for cues to help them with alignment in terms of direction of the crosswalk, but by no means does that mean that the domes are going to provide alignment. So it's just the main purpose is to warn you of that either that street or that transit boarding location. So now when we're talking about the tactile direction indicators, when we're using the raised guide bars, again, I'm going to whip through this real fast. When you're using the raised guide bars, it depends on the use of either if you're using your cane or your foot. People were observed feeling with their hand as well during the research. When using your cane for initial detection, sometimes we found constant contact technique was worked best, and then further detection was made with their foot to confirm the orientation of the bars being detected. So for instance, that top left picture is a set of 4 bars which are meant for following a path. So in that situation, then the bars are 4 wide. It is raised. Unfortunately, you can't really tell from the picture. But you then can either follow next to it, on the other side of it. It's perfectly safe to cross over each sides. Many of the participants had various strategies for determining what was felt under their feet for the purpose of alignment. So when you're looking at the bottom picture below the following one, it's the one where the individual is standing. That's my student standing on a set of bars. You'll notice that the orientation of the bars is actually different. So when you are using the bars for alignment purposes, they then run perpendicular underneath your feet simultaneously. So in other words, the bars have to run, like for instance, under the balls of both feet side by side. If they are equal but underneath both feet, then you know that you are lined up in the correct direction for the crossing. Depending upon what a person would use, sometimes rocking, shifting their weight back and forth underneath or while they were standing on the bars, help them feel the different pressure points. The balls of the feet seem to be the most prevalent. And then the other 2 pictures, the top right hand one indicates using the tactile direction indicator for locating the sidewalk, or excuse me, the crosswalk within the sidewalk. So it could be at the roundabout or it could be at a mid-block crossing, but it's usually extending across that so that once you find it, yes, you're parallel to your street, but then to get up to the crosswalk, those bars would then be oriented perpendicular under your feet. You are going to see that in the video that I'm going to be showing in a little bit, but just wanted to give you a brief description. Again, it may not be the best in understanding, but for the sake of time, we're going to have to keep moving on. So the next one, the tactile direction indicators, again, talking about the sidewalk alert bars. If the strip of bars is running across the sidewalk, the bars indicate the crossing location. And so again, whether it's a mid-block or roundabout, they would step up to it and turn until they feel that the bars are running perpendicular under their feet, walk up to the crosswalk, and then they would know that they are aligned for their crossing. Again, you're going to be able to see this in the video. The tactile direction indicators, the alignment bars. Now, for the sake of the video, you're going to actually see it in the splitter island. The picture on the right is exactly my student. And so we took a picture of her as she's standing on the alignment square, getting ready for the crossing. The one to the left is just showing the use of the alignment squares at a apex corner. In Michigan, as you can tell, they don't always paint their crosswalk lines, so it makes it a little bit challenging. The main thing is to remember that the raised bars, based upon whether it's parallel or perpendicular, the purpose is based on the context of the environment that you're in. So following along, it should be a long, stretch of it, and 4 bars side by side on your parallel side. For alignment purposes, it needs to be perpendicular underneath your feet. Okay, so we're going to get into roundabouts. Most of you are probably aware of roundabouts, but basically, real quick, I've got an image on the screen, and this is actually the roundabout that was used for the video. Vehicles are channelized or directed by an island or lane markings with a circular island in the center of the intersection, and by what are called splitter islands on each approach. The vehicles will circulate counterclockwise around the island, exiting when they get to the road that they want. So the lane for a driver going straight curves slightly right at the entry, then curves back to the left to go around the island and continues straight on the roadway. Entering traffic is supposed to yield to traffic in the circle, but can continue moving if there's no vehicle approaching, or they may accelerate into a gap of oncoming traffic. And obviously, as I indicated, this is a photo of a typical 4-leg intersection, but it's now a roundabout intersection and no longer the 4 legs intersecting in the center. Okay, so pedestrians crossing, they are usually crossing on the outside leg, so maybe 20 to 50 feet before the intersection to cross the parallel street, or around the corner to cross the perpendicular street. So in this photo, it's again just showing it's a graphic of a roundabout, and there were yellow circles that kind of highlight where that actual crosswalk is, with splitter islands in the middle of those actual crossings. So roundabouts come in many different sizes, as we all know, and we're getting more acclimated to them. A lot of differences in the amount of traffic and noise and the number of lanes to be crossed, and how the design of the sidewalks and crosswalks at the intersection. Some of the common features mentioned a little bit ago was that the crosswalk will be around the corner. So another is that the pedestrians are supposed to make 2-stage crossings. So again, you start and then you're crossing a lane to a splitter island, then crossing the lanes traveling in the other direction. Pedestrians are expected to cross in gaps of traffic and when vehicles have yielded and there's no parallel traffic movement beside the crosswalk. So we have issues with being able to provide crossing or alignment cues. Roundabouts are not necessarily awful, surprisingly enough, and we unfortunately have to accept that they're coming. The more that I read on the listservs within the traffic community, transportation professionals, the statistics are amazing at how crash issues have just dropped drastically with roundabouts. So they are not going anywhere. And we need to be aware of the fact that they are coming in our environments faster than you probably would like. And the sooner we can get involved with design and implementing accessibility wayfinding issues, the better. Um, and so again, in these two photos, I have they're basically on the left, the crosswalk is going across one lane of a roundabout with the crosswalk markings and overhead pedestrian sign. So the one on the right is a long crosswalk across 3 lanes at a roundabout. There's audible information device and a push button that would give information to the pedestrian at the crosswalk. Okay, so there are a number of problematic issues for pedestrians who are blind at roundabouts, right? There are issues related to wayfinding, and that's one of the big things that we're talking about today, and you'll notice in the video. Finding the crosswalk is a big thing, and aligning to cross and maintaining the correct heading while we're crossing is huge. Then there's the crossing task of deciding when to cross. At single lane roundabouts, maybe there's an all quiet, or maybe you're considering going in front of a yielding vehicle. However, when there is more than one lane in each direction, there needs to be, or there needs there excuse me, if there is more than one lane in each direction, there needs to be more, and most likely some kind of signal. So in talking about the wayfinding, the video today I'm going to show you will address both the wayfinding complexities and the crossing implications for my student. What we know is that landscaping or fencing can provide guidance to the crosswalk location. In the two photos on the screen, there's an example that doesn't provide adequate guidance, and then one that generally does. The ProRag guidelines will be addressed in the video. On the left is a photo of a sidewalk along a roadway with gravel between the sidewalk and the roadway, which ends as the sidewalk reaches the curve of a channelized right turn lane just before the crosswalk. So it's all basically blending together. On the right, the photo is of a person with a dog guide approaching a crosswalk, and there's a wide grass strip between the roadway and sidewalk, except at the crosswalk location. So could potentially be an easier find than for that crosswalk location. There are 2 lane cues that may be used for alignment. In the absence of parallel traffic, they may often conflict at a roundabout crossing. Perpendicular traffic is commonly not square to the crosswalk direction because of the curving of the entries and the exits. The photos on the screen illustrate this. On the left is a photo of 2-lane crossing at a roundabout, where the approach sidewalk is aligned with the crosswalk and the detectable warning and gutter are perpendicular to the crosswalk. Pretty straightforward. On the right is a 2-lane crossing at a roundabout where the approach sidewalk, the gutter, and detectable warning surfaces are all aligned to the right of the crosswalk direction. So it's at kind of at an angle. So someone who's aligned with them would most likely end up 10 or more feet outside the crosswalk when they reach the splitter island. Not ideal. Finding the crosswalk location on the island can also be difficult. The island may be cut through or ramped. They need detectable warnings to indicate the location of the street at the edge of the street for both cut-through paths or at the base of the ramp. Gravel or grass outside the cut-through, landscaping path, walking area helps to indicate the area is not the walking path. So for today in the video, you'll observe issues with that particular splitter island path because unfortunately she has to turn a couple different ways while she's attempting to get to that second crossing. So the photo on the top of the screen shows a pedestrian island with curb ramps and a completely paved surface. So it's all blending together with solid concrete. And there's a blind pedestrian and another pedestrian that they're walking away from the crosswalk area on the island. So they're basically turned around because, you know, you've got all this turning, conflicting sounds and everything is all the same surface. The bottom photo shows a cut-through island with low bushes and grass on either side. So the pedestrian area is fairly easy to keep track of. Deciding when to begin crossing is the next big issue at roundabouts. Other vehicles often mask the sound of vehicles that are closer. Finding a time when it's all quiet may be impossible. On the video today, you'll notice it's almost impossible. A few strategies to consider, particularly at a one-lane roundabout crossing, are to cross in front of yielding vehicles. That vehicle is basically stopping other traffic in that area. However, could be hard to hear if that vehicle is actually yielded, and if it is an electric vehicle, you may not hear it at all. This is not a good strategy where there is more than one lane, because that vehicle can keep you from hearing an approaching vehicle in the next lane, which obviously we have in the past considered that a multiple threat scenario. There are some possible pedestrian actions or behaviors that can help. In general, it's important to be visible to the drivers. I think we all know that how important that is. With that intent to cross, it's clear. Some options include flagging with a cane, moving the cane back and forth before stepping out. The pedestrian can take one step into the crosswalk or gutter area while extending the cane to determine if the vehicle has stopped. We call that reversible step. Another option is to put one hand in a kind of stop message towards the driver. You'll notice that that's the method that my student she uses to attempt to yield the traffic. In general, it's just important to not stand there, especially in the splitter island. The pedestrian needs to create a yielding attempt, either by moving one foot forward, leaning forward, looking towards the vehicles, extending the cane, putting up the hand, whatever it may be. But it's really important to also consider the placement of the vehicles so that enough time is given for the vehicle to stop. So when you're initiating that crossing, you need to make sure that they have enough time to stop, because cars do need to have that, to be able to slow down that momentum of the vehicle as it's going forward. The photo on the screen shows a roundabout with a pedestrian holding a white cane standing on the splitter island as a car passes the crosswalk. Kind of left out there on that island. Okay, there are some treatments to help with deciding when to begin the crossing. The pedestrian usually need treatments to slow or stop traffic. Again, this is something that PROAG is, addressing. So some of the busy single lane crossings may need some kind of treatment. Some possibilities include the pedestrian hybrid beacon, or like what has been termed the hawk, the rectangular rapid flashing beacon, or RFB, or a raised crosswalk. This will help slow the traffic enough that vehicles can yield, and pedestrians would be better able to get across. Again, the PROAG is going to be mentioned in the video. So now comes the video, but unfortunately what I have to do is I have to switch what I am. So I need to stop sharing, and I need to now share my other video. So bear with me. Sound. Okay, so are we seeing a screen that just looks like kind of a black?
Yep, sure are. Yep.
Okay. Okay, and now this is where your volume, you may have to be prepared to turn it down. And then I will let you know when you'll want to turn it back up before the interviews. All right, here we go.
Roundabout crossings by a blind pedestrian, without and with tactile direction indicators, TDI. A pedestrian with vision disability traveling with a white cane attempts to find the crosswalk at a roundabout intersection with an orientation and mobility specialist following. Her parallel traffic is on her left as she heads toward the intersection. Public rights-of-way accessibility guidelines. Separation from circular way equals yes, easy crosswalk location equals no. The pedestrian veers toward the parallel street. She locates the curb and gets turned around due to a lamppost. The orientation and mobility specialist stops the pedestrian from stepping off the curb into the street. The pedestrian is informed to turn back to the sidewalk. The pedestrian is disoriented. So the orientation and mobility specialist provides correct directional information. Once the pedestrian regains correct heading and continues, she unfortunately passes by the intended crosswalk. Public rights-of-way accessibility guidelines circulation path for crosswalk location. Need detectable vertical edge along street side from crosswalk to crosswalk. The pedestrian continues along by trailing the vertical landscape edge until she detects the domes for the perpendicular street. She turns around and attempts to locate the crosswalk heading in the direction she came from by trailing the curb. Traffic is now on her right. The orientation and mobility specialist intervened by stopping and asking if she had detected the domes. The pedestrian indicated she had and thought this corner was a corner with domes going all around. The orientation and mobility specialist provided directional information and the pedestrian relocated the sidewalk to head back in the direction for the intended crosswalk. The pedestrian trails along a vertical landscaping edge to get back to the intended crosswalk. Once she locates the crosswalk, the domes are detected and she turned to face the street to be crossed. When the pedestrian feels she is lined up, she raises her hand to inform the orientation and mobility specialist. Public rights-of-way accessibility guidelines, multi-lane crossing needs, traffic signal PED head and APS, PHB with PED head and APS, RRFB with locator tone and speech message, or raised crosswalk. The pedestrian attempts to yield vehicles with cane extended forward and her left hand up. 3 vehicles do not yield and continue in front of her. Gaps in traffic? No yielding from 3 vehicles, despite cane and hand up. The pedestrian initiates the multi-lane crossing by moving her cane and raising left hand up. Her alignment appears straight, but as she crosses, she veers to her left as she makes it to the splitter island. Turn in direction on island leads to change in alignment from both tactual and audible cues. The pedestrian navigates the splitter island, which required a turn to the right, following vertical landscaping edge, and then a turn to the left to the next set of domes. Once at the second set of domes, the pedestrian continued to walk past them and the orientation and mobility specialist had to stop her from stepping into the street and an oncoming vehicle exiting the roundabout. Once aligned, she raised her hand to indicate she was ready to cross. The pedestrian started the crossing on the left side of the crosswalk and completed the crossing more to the right. Same crossing, but with TDI, tactile direction indicator, sidewalk alert bars. The pedestrian with cane walks along the sidewalk with orientation and mobility specialist following. She is approaching the crosswalk location, which has raised tactile sidewalk alert bars running across the sidewalk. First, the pedestrian detects the bars with her cane and then she steps onto the bars and detects with her feet. She then turns toward the street, uses both her cane and feet to feel the bars as she walks up to the domes. The pedestrian moves her feet to confirm the bars run perpendicular under both of her feet. Once she is aligned and raises her hand, the cameraman moves in behind her to capture her alignment.
Are you still filming?
The pedestrian is told to go when ready. She raised her hand with cane extended. Vehicles yielded and she crossed to the splitter island. The crossing was executed with little to no veer. Navigating island with TDI, tactile direction indicator, alignment bars. On the splitter island, the pedestrian walks off the first set of domes, locates the vertical landscape edge and walks up to the 2-foot by 2-foot square of tactile alignment bars. She detects the bars first with her cane and then with her feet. She moves her feet back and forth until she feels the bars running perpendicular under her feet. The pedestrian raises her hand once she feels she is aligned. The pedestrian puts her hand up to yield traffic coming from the right exiting the roundabout. She extends her cane and completes a very straight crossing. Tactile direction indicator, TDI, sidewalk alert bars from opposite direction. The pedestrian with cane walks along the sidewalk with orientation and mobility specialist following. She is approaching the crosswalk location, which has raised tactile sidewalk alert bars running across the sidewalk. First, the pedestrian detects the bars with her cane and then she steps onto the bars and detects with her feet. She then turns toward the street, uses both her cane and feet to feel the bars as she walks up to the domes. The pedestrian moves her feet to confirm the bars run perpendicular under both of her feet. Once she is aligned and raises her hand, the cameraman moves in behind her to capture her alignment. The pedestrian is told to go when ready. She raised her hand with cane extended. Vehicles yielded and she crossed to the splitter island. The crossing was executed with little to no veer. Wanted one more crossing because it's so much easier. The pedestrian is standing aligned at the crosswalk with the raised bars running perpendicular under her feet. She raises her hand and extends the cane to yield vehicles. She executes a straight crossing with little to no veer. This pedestrian's usable vision.
Okay, so this is where you're going to probably want to turn your volume up because this is when I interview her and her thoughts on use without and with the TDI. So hopefully. All right, I'm going to go ahead and hit play.
Okay. Well, I have basically, they call it light perception, which means that I basically just see lights. I can sometimes see movement if there's a lot of contrast and it's in a brightly lit situation. So sometimes, like on a very sunny day, if I really look at it, I might be able to see the crosswalk lines, but I don't rely on that because there's not a sunny day every day. So have to rely on traffic sounds and my memory of going places I know, and if I'm in an unfamiliar place, just kind of going by sounds.
Crossing without TDI, tactile direction indicator, sidewalk alert bars.
The first time it was a little stressful.
So crossing without?
Without the bars, yeah. I was pretty sure that I was lined up straight, but there really wasn't a lot to tell. Either traffic noises or curb line. So I was kind of hoping when I stepped out into the street that I had good alignment, and that the cars would pause, was yield for me. That was a little bit of a question in my mind when I stepped into the road, because two of them, I remember I held up my hand and two cars passed and paid no attention. So I was a little nervous when I stepped into the road for two reasons. And
Yep.
yeah, it was just a little scary.
Crossing with TDI, tactile direction indicator, sidewalk alert bars.
Started from the same point and did not have to go all the way down the sidewalk because I was walking and there was the tactile lines across the sidewalk to tell me that there was a crosswalk there. So I turned when I felt them and used the raised bars to get my alignment straight so that I was heading straight across the street, which was nice. Put my hand up to yield traffic and stepped out into the street and crossed. And I remember that the island in the middle,
Mm-hmm.
that was a lot easier to understand what I was supposed to do where, and to have those bars kind of pointing the way after I got around that, whatever it is, in the middle of that island to,
Yeah.
you know, to find my alignment again, because once you turn and then turn again, well, there goes your alignment. So
Good.
yeah, that was good. And then I just remember lining up again on the island and stepping across that one lane of traffic.
Good.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Accessible design for the blind.
Okay.
Jennifer.
So I am now going to stop that, and then I will share the PowerPoint again. Bear with me.
I think someone,
Okay.
oh, there we go. Good.
Oh,
Nope, you're perfect. Go ahead.
okay. So is the PowerPoint back up?
Yep.
Okay. So obviously this video is going to stay on the OMSA website, and I'm assuming it'll hopefully play. I guess that's going to be the big question. But I wanted to make sure you recognize that it is on the TRB Roundabouts and Alternative Intersections YouTube channel. And I put that link in the PowerPoint, but I could probably try to copy and paste it into the chat as well. But it's on that YouTube channel, if you ever wanted to get it from that location. Okay, so let me get rid of this.
Judy Strauss reposted your original link, by the way, Jen, so you're covered there.
Oh, awesome. Thank you so much for doing that for me. So at this point, what I want to do is just open it up to
Roundabout crossings by a blind
want to
pedestrian.
do that. Okay. Just to discussion. Basically, there are some other slides I can throw in there, but I feel like at this point, it would be beneficial to allow anyone who, has some questions about how the TDIs are even used. I can honestly say, at least for my experience with my student for that particular video, she had never crossed a roundabout before. And so I used a tactual map of the intersection to kind of help her understand what traffic was even doing. Because when we first went down there, she had no idea why the sounds were what they were.
Hold on one second,
And
Jen.
oh yeah, go ahead.
You have a note in chat that it's quiet. Some Judy is saying it's quiet. Are you all done? I'll be leaving in a minute. Can everybody else, just somebody switch on their audio and make sure that I can hear Jen fine, but can everybody else?
I can
I
hear,
can
this
hear.
is Mag.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. I
Okay.
guess we're okay.
Okay. So, as I was saying, and so for that particular instance, in a way, I purposely wanted it to be as organic as possible, meaning I wanted to just kind of simulate like if she just got off the bus and had to go to the street crossing to get to her doctor's office. Because the purpose of the video in the beginning was to educate engineers and transportation professionals about these are some of the challenges. Even though there was a vertical element in there, it wasn't consistent in that there were still spots, as you saw how she got lost next to the light post and then got completely turned around. So I understand that it takes a little bit longer time for them to watch that, but realizing that by her missing it and she went all the way to that next crosswalk and then had to turn around and come back to that initiate, I feel it was great for them to be able to see. And honestly, some of the feedback that I got from those transportation professionals, they never realized to what extent some of that curvature, how it can be so problematic. And then when the traffic isn't really helpful, like in her situation, when she got to that second set of domes, in other words, the wrong crosswalk, she thought she was at the correct one and had no idea because that traffic's just continuing to curve and move on her parallel side. So for her, it was a unique situation. I felt she handled it fairly well. I did not care for the multi-lane crossing. I still don't like teaching that intersection because of the dangerous issues with not being able to yield vehicles. It's multi-lane. As you can tell, it's pretty busy. and loud. On a rainy day, I probably wouldn't even encourage someone to consider doing that crossing. So anyway, so I'll shut up for now, and then whatever, if anybody's got questions or wants to ask or make a comment.
Or you can post them in the chat and we'll read them off there, whatever you'd like to do, that's fine. Let's use the raised hand feature if you have a question though.
Yeah, and Lucas, will you
So you
facilitate that?
I'll do it, but you have to stop sharing so I can see the hands. Well, no,
Oh,
that's
okay,
not
I'm
true. That's
sorry.
not true. I can do that. There, I got it. We're good. Yep,
Oh, so you want me to put it back up?
that's fine. Sure.
Okay.
Questions from anyone?
Wow. I've stumped y'all. You're just so smart. You didn't need any of this.
That's good.
This is
I have a
Judy.
question.
Okay, go ahead.
Oh, please go ahead, Judy.
No, go ahead.
Okay, this is Desmond. I was just wondering, do you ever emphasize cardinal directions, like maybe after they've crossed like a segment to kind of ensure that they're going in the direction they want to go? Have you found that to be helpful?
Absolutely. And again, it depends on the student. Some people do really well with their cardinal directions, along with having some GPS feature, giving them additional cues. But roundabouts can be very disorienting because of the curvature nature. So, really paying attention to what I call their place in space is what I'm constantly reminding them as they're dealing with roundabout issues. Every footfall has a purpose, and if you turn your body, you need to have a purpose behind that turn. But yes, compass directions are definitely useful. Now I'm seeing all kinds of hands.
Yes. Sarah, you want to take it? Sarah Duck.
Hey there. Hey, Jen. Thank
Hi,
you so
Sarah.
much for that. That was awesome. I am thinking and reflecting about how we don't really see a whole lot of this in the US overall, or at least where I have traveled. I haven't seen a whole lot of those, and yet they are so seemingly omnipresent in other countries. Where do you see the future going forward in getting this to be more ubiquitous across the US?
It's happening, especially since last January, attending TRB. BZ, myself, Alan, and Linda all did several conferences or presentations, I'm sorry, at that conference. And there's been a lot more discussion and adding installations and inquiries about how to make some of these places, both, roundabouts and all these other various transit facilities, by implementing some of these TWSIs. So, like I said, another Mobility Monday about just talking about the different applications, I think would be very helpful and how to use them. But yeah, Sarah, they're definitely starting to be more, you're going to be seeing them more in the United States.
Awesome. Thank you.
And
Yeah.
we have a couple more questions. There's one in the chat from Jack Mitchells who says, would you use cardinal directions to help make sure they're crossing at the correct place?
Yes. As I mentioned earlier with the other question, absolutely.
Then Claire Rivas, you're up.
Hi, thanks for having me. That video was very informative, and I could see how it could be influential when you go and meet with the transportation departments to help advocate for the deaf-blind community. My question is what is the best way to connect with the Department of Transportation departments and to be in the loop for when these meetings are happening so we have a voice in the room?
Well, I'm sure many people on this Zoom would have additional things. So by all means, if I miss something, please help Claire. But I think the biggest thing is getting involved with local transportation meetings, finding out when they are having their transportation improvement plans. Those are meetings where they show you what they're going to be doing to the city or county or whatever it may be, And usually those meetings are addressing issues that are 2 years out, but it's a great way to start advocating before they even start doing the design phase of some of these things. If there are local like ITE or transportation committees that are having either conferences or things of that nature, you might be able to tap into attending some of those seminars. If you have the ability within your city or state to have a list either under DOT or the city management, just reaching out to them. I can honestly say, at least for my the number of years I've been teaching, when I first started attending the Transportation Research Board conferences, Janet had asked me to do that years ago. When we would talk to some of the transportation professionals, they didn't seem real excited to hear us even ask questions or say, well, how would a person with a visual impairment handle this crossing? Now they want us to talk about these things. They want us to ask these questions. They like us to be part of the design.
Right on,
And it's
that's awesome.
refreshing. Yes, it's refreshing. So I'm not going to say that every time that I have submitted something like to a transportation improvement plan, I usually try to, even right here in the state of Michigan and Grand Rapids area, I've submitted something every year and I never get any feedback, but at least I know I have submitted it and tried to
Okay.
address some of the issues. So does anybody else have any other suggestions that I may have not brought up?
I'll check in the chat for more suggestions, but thank you for that feedback. I'll follow up on some of your suggestions.
Sure.
And Judy,
Jen?
who also wrote in the chat, can you contact the traffic department and request some additional controls at the roundabout in your area?
So that was an ask or that was a comment?
That was an ask.
Oh, well, I would think, again, I don't have the magic answer. I would think that if a pedestrian who has the vision loss or vision disability puts that request in, you're going to have a lot more weight behind than if it's somebody like me, an orientation mobility specialist. Especially if it's a situation where this is getting that person to a job site or getting them home or whatnot. There's a lot of weight behind that. If it's a multi-lane one, and now that, ProAg has been adopted and like they're definitely trying to follow, I think that's going to help as well. But yeah, I think getting the person involved that is going to be doing that crossing quite a bit is definitely the first way to start with it all.
Jen, this is Meg.
Yeah.
I was going to add to your resources. In every state, there's a Metropolitan Planning Commission. There's numerous ones in each state. You can go on the usually the DOT website, or you can Google Metropolitan Planning Commissions, and you can find out where they are in your state. For the rural states, there's also a Rural Planning Commission. That's not the right name for it, but you can get on their mailing list. On both of them, they have all email mailing list. The other thing is every state is and their DOT has to have a PED bike coordinator, and some are very active. In Massachusetts, we have a very active a coordinator, and he runs a board that I happen to be on. So, and that was just from attending meetings, and I got asked to come to to become a board member due to the fact that I always said, what about blind folks? What about blind pedestrians? The other thing is join Walk America and or your pedestrian group within your area. They have local pedestrian groups, plus they have usually a statewide pedestrian group in Massachusetts. It's Walk Massachusetts. Affiliated America Walks. And that is a big group because our folks are pedestrians, and the more we have more say with those pedestrian groups with the bigger population. And the other thing is your local, again, what you said, Jen, was your local traffic engineers or local DPWs or traffic engineering in your city or town, they all have a traffic engineer for the most part, or a county traffic engineer. And it's good to connect up with them and say, hey, what's coming up? What's planning? And what's your transition plan for your ADA transition plan for accessible pedestrian signals installation? And they'll say, what? What are you talking about? And you can talk about the need. And now you have access for this video in regards to showing it to planners and what issues there are with roundabouts that they can easily fix when they're installing the roundabout. It can be adapted pretty easily at the time of installation rather than after the fact.
I'd like to just jump in right there for a second and reiterate Jack's next question, which is related to mine, which is, okay, are this raised bars available? Where can you get them? Can you refer traffic engineers to them? And what Jack asked here is, can you give any examples of places where there are permanent installations of tactile walking surface indicators for alignment at a crossing? All of the installations have been temporary for studies. I'd love to be able to refer traffic engineers to places where they've actually been installed for aiding alignment.
Well, that is, BZ may have a better idea. I don't know if BZ's still on. I want to
Yes,
say
yeah.
Seattle, and California. Are those correct, BZ? Maybe she's not on.
She's here. She
Um,
needs to unmute, I think.
oh,
She's there.
I know
It took
one
me a
of the,
minute to
well, I
find
know,
Took me a minute to unmute here. Yeah, Seattle is really in the forefront of this. I think there's some interesting work going on in Boston now.
Oh.
And San Francisco is a good example. Tacoma, Washington also is a good example of, and Toronto, and Calgary in Canada are good too.
Thank you. I knew you would have a better, I knew you would know more for sure.
Also, this is Meg. Europe uses a lot of these guidance tiles, not directional tiles, but the guidance tiles.
Also, from that perspective, Japan is probably the leader in that. I mean, they have a rather incredible network of guiding paths. And it's never been the tradition here in the U.S., but certainly, and the research that's been done has focused on transit settings, getting through large bus depots and transition points, modal transfer points between train stations and bus travel. So that's where the focus has been in research to date. As if I go off track here, Jen and BZ, let me know.
There are really two philosophies of use of tactile walking surface indicators internationally. And one is, and this would be true of Japan, and which has been duplicated throughout Asia in developed areas, is that it should provide a continuous route for a blind person to follow. The other philosophy is that they should be used when normal cues are not available. For instance, if there isn't any surface, a grass surface, a hedge, a building, a low stone wall, landscaping, or something that can be followed in an open area to get where you want to go. And that is, what we have done in the US. We have not heard from blind people that they want a yellow brick road to follow every place they want to go, but more that they want the information when they need it, when there aren't normal cues available.
Just to cross-reference and jump off track for a minute, if you happen to be going to SOMA, we're having a presentation in Huntsville, Alabama, assuming there is a Huntsville, Alabama after all the hurricanes, But we're having a presentation by a Japanese guide dog school that experimented with training dogs to follow tactile direction indicators, so across a wide open parking lot. I thought it was an interesting presentation, so that will be there.
Yeah.
All right. Few more, any more questions? Jen, do you want to show those last couple of slides that you put together or not? Up to you.
I could just show them real quick, just as an example.
Yeah. All right.
So like the next one, all it is, I pulled the graphic out of the guide to kind of show you that the picture to the right is the installation that I obviously did at the roundabout in the video. When you look at the graphic, you know, that's what is in there in terms of suggestion on how to apply the TDI alert bars for the sidewalk. But notice the difference in that in my real life application, my bars are more straight across because the crosswalk is straight across. In the graphic from the guide, the crosswalk itself is angled, which is why the TDI bars then are now angled. I just wanted to point that out, that some of these graphics may have to, you have to look at the environment in that you are trying to then install it in. Hopefully that kind of makes sense as to what I was trying to show you. And then the next one was basically, again, this is to the right is the photo of the actual installation that I did at the roundabout. And then the graphic image right to the left of that is showing when you have two-way traffic with the splitter island, you know, you've got to have your two separate alignment squares. Again, the square itself needs to be on the farther side from that oncoming vehicle. So in that graphic that's going up, you know, towards, let's say north is the top of the screen, then that TDI square then is on the back end or the farther away from that arrow side. And just like what I had done in my splitter island. But again, it was just to show you that in the graphic you will have, or in the guide, excuse me, you will have different examples of how you can then use these installations or use these materials in certain installations. Obviously, it's not going to cover everything, but it should give you a good idea of how to best approach some unique kind of situations. So I don't know if that was helpful or not, but I just thought I would throw it in there.
That's great. We have one more question from Jack, getting back to his original question. He's asking, I think, for photographs and specific locations, specific examples of intersections that have been so equipped and designed. If you know of any, or perhaps, Jack, let me see, how can we can get that to you somehow for sure. I'll keep track of that. I'll ask BZ and Jen to send me information on this, and you know how to reach me, I think. So I'll put my phone number in the chat so you can text me there just for a second.
Okay. Perfect. Do you want me to stop sharing?
Yeah, you can do that. That'd be great.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Jen, I thought that was tremendous. You know, this roundabout issue is a big one, and this is one small bite of the apple, but it's a very good apple and will help us, I think, down the line a good deal. Just another quick reminder that if you look at open the chat window and you look up at the top, there are the three little dots there, and if you click on the three little dots, one of the choices is save chat up at the top, and that will save it to your hard drive. So any of the links or things of that nature that were put into the chat, and you were going to look for something else to put in there, I think, Jen, I can't remember what it was. You'll have that then saved. And we're getting pretty close to closing time, but let me ask you all to uncloak, turn on your cameras and introduce yourselves and where you're from. We don't know everybody, so start with you, Meg, out there in Nevada on my screen.
Hi, Meg Robertson, Cons, Chair of the EAC. I also attend TRB yearly. and retired.
All right.
Sparks, Nevada.
And I'm Lucas Frank, formerly of the Seeing Eye, now retired. And Justin, you're up. You're still working, aren't you?
Yeah, I can introduce myself. Justin Kaiser. I'm a professor for the Orientation Mobility program at the University of Kentucky, and I'm also on the OMSA board.
And BZ is broadcasting from a wetlands, it looks like. Okay, go ahead.
Picture behind me is along the Denali Highway in Alaska. I live in Fairbanks and I've been working in the field of tactile walking surface indicators ever since I started research on detectable warnings back in the late 1980s.
All right, Sarah, one of the two decks.
I'm Sarah Dyke. I'm at Leader Dogs for the Blind in Michigan. I'm a GDMI in comms, and I'm on the Barlow Initiative Committee with Jen.
Great.
Oh, and that's what I was going to bring up. So I'm glad you said that. All right, go ahead with the rest of it.
All right, Robert Paris. You'd unmute.
Sorry about that. Robert Paris. I'm an O&M student through Western Michigan University, but working as a teacher for visually impaired, but supporting O&M and Saginaw ISD in Michigan.
All right, great. Thanks, Robert. Judy Porrell.
Hi, I'm Judy Porro. I'm an orientation mobility specialist here in South Florida.
Ooh.
And we're awaiting this big hurricane coming our way. So see how that works. But this was really interesting. My comment is it's seeing how your student had a really hard time stopping traffic so she could cross. We have White Cane Day coming up next week. I think it's really interesting that people wouldn't stop for her. Trying to teach someone to cross around roundabouts really challenging. We have no parallel traffic. That's really tough. But I think those the tactile surfaces, especially the guides, would help tremendously. So I think that's great. We got to get those more put to use. Great idea.
Well, and I'm sure you probably noticed her confidence with the raised bars was much different when she initiated that crossing. It made a big difference.
And then you
be safe.
Yes, thank you. And then you had them in the island too, which also helped a lot too. So
yeah,
you could put up a manufacturer name in the chat. That might be helpful for people as well. The other Judy Strauss Schwartz. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Judy Strauss Schwartz. I live just outside New York City, and I'm a TDI and a COMS. And hi, BZ. Oh, she's gone.
No, she's
there.
Hi,
BZ. It's been a long time.
Yeah.
And I'm still teaching a little bit.
Good. And Diane Fozzie, I think I've seen your name on a textbook. Am I right about that?
Yeah. Hi, I'm Diane Fozzie, and I am from Cal State LA, and I'm currently in the faculty early retirement program, which means I get to teach half-time. So I've left the dark side of administration and returned to faculty.
All right, way to go. Say hi to Vince. Okay, Claire.
Hi, my name's Claire Rivas. I live in Hawaii, and I'm an O&M grad student with the Portland State University program, but out here with affiliation through the UH. We have some comms here helping us and being mentors. I'm also a mother of a deafblind learner, and I just know as he ages and he wants a little more freedom from us and wants to be like all the other kids, I would feel a lot more comfortable him crossing the street if there were things like this installed all over. So thank you for inviting me to this meeting and just opening my eyes to more information and resources. Thank you.
Great to have you. And now our other deck.
I'm Pat Dyke. I work in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan for the state of Michigan. And I'm a O&M and a CLVT.
Great, thank you. And Emily Agranati.
Hi, El Granati, yeah, you got it, Lucas. Hi, I'm Emily from Portland, Oregon with Guide Dogs for the Blind, and I'm a GDMI and a comms teaching in both of our programs here at GDB.
Thank you. Nice to have another comms here. I mean, GDMI here. Okay, Shiori Yoshida.
Hi, I'm Shiori from Japan Guide Dog Association. I'm a guide dog trainer right now, and it's my first time coming. Thank you, Lucas, for sharing our next presentation at SOMA. Two of our guide dog mobility instructors are getting ready for using Braille tiles in guide dog mobility, especially on platforms, and also using them for following. So I hope any of you can participate in that as well.
That's going to be a great presentation. Thank you, Shiori. All right, Amy, more staff from GDB. There you go.
Hi, I'm Amy Gunn. I'm based in Portland, Oregon, and I'm a comms and a GDMI, and I work at the apprentice program, and I'm really looking forward to coming to SOMA and seeing a lot of you.
Nice.
And Rachel Caleri. I said it right too, didn't I?
You did, thank you.
Oh, good. All right.
I am a comms. I live in Spokane, Washington, and I work with adults. And if I could just make a quick note about getting involved locally, that a lot of municipalities are seeking people to represent people with mobility disabilities. And so there are a lot of opportunities to get involved with your local committees devoted to travel, and can always go and give citizen input as a way to begin to get involved. So all of those types of committees are open to the public and have opportunities for public testimony. So that's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Rachel. And Jessica Semmingson. You're muted still.
Hi, I'm Jessica. I'm from the Seattle area and a comms where we have lots of roundabouts.
That you do. Thanks. And Desmond Jackson.
Hey, so excellent presentation. I'm Desmond Jackson here in Baltimore, Maryland, and I'm an NOMC and also serve on an OMSA board.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Des. Mark.
Hi, I am Mark Companion on the OMSA membership committee and also the activities committee. I'm an NOMC in Richmond, Virginia, former civil engineer, got my degree at Michigan State for you Michigan
go
folks.
green.
Woo! Former lecturer at the University of Vermont. One of my theses was the foundation for Vermont's first pedestrian and bicycle design manual for the Agency of Transportation. I'm a big walkable communities person and now NOMC in Richmond, Virginia.
All right, great.
Nice.
And it's nice to have someone here from the dark side.
Right.
Okay. And then Jack Mitchell. Jack, you're on. Oh, wait a minute. Yeah. Jack, you're here twice. I don't know which one I'm talking to. If you're talking on your phone, you're muted. The other one, I don't know where you are. Well, we'll see. Maybe he'll come in a bit. I just want to thank Jen for just a tremendously informative presentation, and it's nice we've all been puzzled by roundabouts, and it's nice to have an answer to at least a piece of that problem. And that video from the minute I first saw it, which was several months ago, I thought that's going to help us a great deal, both with traffic engineers and within our own community. And we also owe a debt of gratitude to Jen's husband, who shot the video. Thank you so much for that work. So, all right.
Yeah. I don't talk to most people that way. Are you still filming?
Yeah. And let me just invite you all, if you're not members of OMSA, to join OMSA. We are just orientation and mobility, all stripes, from COMS to GDMI to NOMC to unaffiliated. So we welcome everyone, and if you'd like to see more of this type of discussion, this is the place to do it. We got one coming up sometime soon on all the other types of tactile walking surface indicators. So look forward to seeing you there. Thank you all so much for coming.
One real quick thing I was going to mention was the Barlow Initiative Committee. And that's another way to potentially network within your state. What we try to do is go to different regions, different areas. And actually, for those of you who knew Janet Barlow, her big passion was to get transportation professionals and O&M specialists together and on the street and learning from each other, cross collaboration, and hopefully building a network where they then can continue to reach out. And so if you hear the initiative coming in your area, it is a huge, I think, benefit to not only yourselves, but your ability to advocate and establish those rapports and those relationships with that traffic engineering community. So far, we've done SOMA, we've done Penn, Dell AER. I've done a couple different smaller ones with other states, and the feedback has been incredible just because the engineers are just overjoyed at being able to experience through simulation what it's like to be at an intersection and truly get the idea of what it's like for somebody with a vision loss to attempt to, do some of these crossings. So if we reach out to any of you in your areas, it might be because we're looking to expand. So I just want to make sure that that's put out there, that could be a potential for another way to network with other transportation professionals. So
Great. Thank you. Jack, are you there now? You want to say hi? I don't know if you're there or not. Yep.
Hey, yep, I am. Jack Mitchell. I'm an orientation and mobility specialist in North Carolina. I'm the O&M for Industries of the Blind in Greensboro, and have also been involved with some of the research that Accessible Design for the Blind has done. And so I'm really interested in this area. So thanks so much for a great presentation.
Yeah, it was terrific. Thank you so much. All right, guys. Thanks very much. Wonderful seeing you.
right.
Don't
Thank
forget,
you.
I'll leave
Take
the
care.
chat up if anybody wants to grab it real quick. Still, you can.
Oh, and I did throw one manufacturer in, but I haven't been able to find the rest of them. So there's definitely more. Strongo Techway is the one that I put in there, but there's definitely more that are doing it.
Super. You put that in the chat?
Yep.
Great. All right, I'll leave that up for you to grab. Good to see y'all.
Take care, everyone.
All right. Great job, Jen.
Oh my gosh, that was so fast.
Yeah, no, you did fine. It was paced really well. I'm glad we took out what we took out.
Oh my gosh, yes. We would have never gotten through it all. So I'm glad that we went through it. So thank you for that.
And it would have just been overwhelming, for people. It's
Yes.
just too much, it's just too much.
Yep.
So, but no, I thought it went very well.
Oh,
Technically,
you might want to stop the recording.
oh yeah. Good idea. How do I do that?